And Amanda,
Oh,
you're
you're
still
live.
you're still muted, but that's okay. When you get settled, you can tune back in. So yeah, we're this is like our 150th Peeragogy in action session, I think. Anyway, we stopped kind of numbering them at 136, I think, or something like that. And we are today sort of an informal drop in, hangout to talk about plans for version 4 of the Peeragogy Handbook and to kind of review some of the sessions we've had recently, like the Peering into Learning presentation for the Harvard Kennedy School Alumni Network. So, hi, Joe.
Yeah, hi. That was a great title, by the way, Peering into Learning.
Yeah, well, I kept thinking of that little guy that Amanda had drawn. You know, that little guy is like,
Yeah,
he's peering over the edge. Yeah, Amanda's got our identity in
yeah,
hand. So yeah, I mean it was a good introduction. Like it was so pedagogical because I learned a lot about trying to load on too many layers of stuff. Trying to get it recorded, and that didn't work. But I set up another session for June 16th, and it's not firm, but I was going to revisit all the people who came to that May 19th session and invite them to, just kind of recreate it.
yeah. Reunion of the reunion.
But yeah, my reunion class was my 25th Kennedy School reunion, and it was just so much fun. Like the more time goes by, the less you just worry about what you're doing, and you just enjoy each other more. So
Hmm.
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's if you have a system and it works, that's good. But that was a kind of a one-off. So everyone had to kind of improvise a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. There's this whole kind of approach to getting involved with the Kennedy School and the Alumni Network, and there's lots of opportunities. And then they do kind of guard their gates pretty well. So it'd be nice to be able to use that room, but I think I'm going to have to build a relationship with the alumni office before we can kind of count on it or whatever. So,
Hmm.
but it does have some great facilities. I mean, the whole room was there were screens, there was a projector, there's Ethernet, and I didn't really even know about any of that before I walked in there at 7:30. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping to kind of it would be nice. And then at our network, our alumni, the keynote speech was by that guy, Ron Heifetz, who a lot of my classmates took his negotiations class
Mm.
in 1992, before you were born, Amanda.
No,
No,
not that.
not quite that far back. But he, so I went up after his talk, which was amazing. It was a great talk, um, about making a difference and remembering what's real and stuff. And I gave him a copy of the handbook, and I signed it, from the Peeragogy project, and then also
Cool.
his assistant, who was a Speaker of the House in the Vermont uh, legislature. So, and then I tried to join they have this adaptive leadership network. Did you see that, Joe?
Mm.
You're muted, Joe.
What adaptive leadership network are you talking about?
That was the one that Ron Heifetz has started.
No, I don't think I saw it.
Uh, it was in one of the reports on the session. It's adaptive-leadership.net. So they have a conference coming up in October, and so I joined, and there are a few hoops to jump through for that too. It's kind of but it's understandable. They want people to be familiar with their frameworks and their way of doing business.
Hmm.
Did you get it on there?
Um,
Yeah. Okay, so
oh yes, you have an invitation.
let me see if I can screen share it.
I was a little distracted because Lisa and perhaps some others would want to get on here. I'm not sure if I can.
Okay.
Or no, from here. I don't know who else.
There we go. So this is Heifetz's new deal, and it's. I think we would have a lot to contribute, whether we get into it this year or not. I don't know if we will, but I'm kind of
Have
in
we
the.
have we looked at things from that sort of space, from the adaptive leadership and sort of complexity theory space at all?
I don't really know what you mean, but
Perfect. So, I found this organization called Plexus Institute, Plexus, that is they're not a think tank, but they're sort of a consultancy plus association a little bit, or network perhaps is a better word, around complexity theory. And I've met some amazing people through there, and they essentially are all about figuring out how to use complexity theory in practice. And so it's very much pedagogy, similar to pedagogy and sort of how we think about pedagogy.
is
And
this it?
so, no, it might be Plexus Institute. If you put Plexus Institute in there, here, I can look it up real fast and tell you what it is. PlexusInstitute.org.
Perfect.
Yeah, that first one. And they just had their conference. It was actually quite small this year. They hadn't done it in a couple of years. But coming out of sort of organization development and that field, as well as complexity science in that field, and a whole bunch of people finding different ways. And so actually one of the things they do is, I don't know, they're plexus calls, I think they call them. And once a week or once a month or once a so often, they host people to have conversations about stuff. So the Peeragogy Project would be an awesome conversation for them.
Well, if you're hooked into them, feel free to suggest that, or I can set up a hangout or whatever works.
Sure.
All this stuff is really interesting to me. I'm more of a practical person than theoretical, but
Yeah. And these guys find they straddle those lines, right? There's a whole lot of folks who are doing that work in the theoretical and the academic side, but then they also like specifically liberating structures. If you're interested in them, they're exercises that that are based in complexity theory, but that have people sort of interacting on a level that's not your typical, okay, sit down, somebody's at the top talking at everybody, right? So there's just different ways, and they've used complexity science as the background for, hey, get everybody working together and having the conversation at the same time, or yada, yada,
cool.
yada.
Yeah. When I've in my little forays into trying to get this group together for these hangouts and stuff, it's like you run up against whatever whatever platform people are using, and then they can't really shift their, their, like, somebody might not like Google Calendar, so they just kind of resist, or no, I'm not talking about you, Joe, but, because Joe's like the most flexible person I know, but, or Google Drive, or, like something where it just facilitates stuff, but they have a good idea, but they just want to do it on their own little turf, and it's kind of hard to know how to navigate that to bring people together, bring their good ideas into the center.
Yeah.
Where is the center?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I know that the sort of, so liberating structures, I'm not sure if it's .com or .org, but I can tell you in a second. But that one, they are basically, I think they're Creative Commons mostly. So they do encourage people to run off and run with them. And they've actually got, Liberating Structures has got user groups that are meeting all over the place too, which is kind of a cool thing. And I've sort of shared about Peeragogy in some of those groups for a while. There was a New York one, which honestly I'm not sure if there is anymore. But
is this it?
There's a Philly one that I run, although we made it bigger than that to include a bunch of other things. But yeah, well, I don't know. I think these resources are helpful at all.
whether they come and go, or keep on in a really vigorous way, I think they all contribute to the progress of bringing people together to solve problems.
Yeah.
Like we were offline for a while, I think, like, I just got really busy and burned out with trying to drag people into meetings at a certain time, and then when we came back, there was, for this Harvard thing that got everyone's attention, and it was it was a catalyst to kind of getting back on track. So
and what is ideas? What is the, can I just ask some high level questions that maybe I know the answer to, maybe I don't? What is the sort of point? What is the sort of big outcome that we're looking for?
Say that one more time, because I just didn't quite get it. There was an audio glitch. What's the big something?
What is the big outcome?
Yeah, I was gonna sort of get at that. Ask the same question. But so my answer, in the form of a kind of tentative answer, is like, we've got this book now, 3rd edition, and that's great. But I almost feel like each person should come up with their own pitch or their own idea. So like one of the latest ideas, which has been a while, I think you were involved with creating it, maybe with Paola, was to make mini handbooks, so that we wouldn't have like one big book, but have lots of little handbooks that are more accessible. And I think that's a very good idea, but that doesn't yet spell out the impact of those things. They're like, what are we gonna, now that we have them, what's changed about the world? So that's not anti that idea, but I think it's like,
well, I think we had something with the accelerators, and that's where I really wanted to, maybe put the independent publishers of New England in an accelerator and just solve some of these problems we have. They're chronic. I've been involved with this thing for 10 years, and it's like it's spurts of people doing lots of stuff and then burning out and getting mad at each other and refusing to help, or just but we don't have the money to hire staff, and it just kind of keeps lurching along. So it'd be nice to just solve a problem.
Yeah, I suppose we could try to take Brian as an interesting walkthrough. I almost feel like if we asked Brian to do that, he'd end up solving more of our problems than we would solve his problems.
Exactly, and that's okay, you know, because I think in the process of solving ours, he would end up with something good. I mean, I've been interacting with him on Facebook. He put this out, and I said, let's think about doing an accelerator, and he said, wow, that would be fantastic, you know. So his energy is there, and you know, whether it works or not, I don't know, but.
Yeah, I think that we. So I've chatted with Charlie. Just he called me up or whatever a couple times about things we could do, and one of the thoughts that we had was to take the talk. We have those great slides. I put in the chat the slides that Charlotte presented, or that I tried to present somehow. I don't even know.
I think we kind of tossed it back and forth like a tennis ball.
Yeah, but anyway, we made these great slides, which we attempted to present, and I thought we could do something kind of like using these slides here. I could screen share them because
sure, if you got it handy. I've got 2 screen shares going already. So. But I mean, now it's so weird. Now I started this Hangout, and now I did have the broadcast button. So I don't know.
It says live on my.
Yeah, it's live. We just couldn't get it live when we were at Harvard, and I think it was either the Wi-Fi was just the guest Wi-Fi. It might have just not even.
Might not have allowed you or something.
It might not have liked it. So yeah. So Joe started out presenting these, and then we had audio dropouts and stuff. So.
Yeah, so I don't want to go through too much, but I would just want to say that my idea with Charlie was to take these things, like this is a very nice graphic, and just put it at the top of a page, you know, like a letter-sized piece of paper, put this at the top, kind of like our pattern catalog had all those great pictures, and then just write something, you know, write some text to go along with the pictures, and then at the end, we'd have something kind of like a white paper, you know, that we would then have this thing. It might not address the question of what is our big ticket item, but we would have a lot more clarity about what are the nuts and bolts. But yeah, I'm thinking like we learned in this session there were a lot of people there talking about places to apply this sort of idea. So, you know, post Katrina New Orleans, Egypt, changing the way the school system teaches about antenatal care. This one in like how do you teach people, you know, completely different way of behaving in the ecosystem. I think was part of his issue.
Yes.
Yeah. So and we had different things at different scales. Here was at the national scale. Here was our handbooks, and so on and so forth. So we had, and here's some friends of Charlotte. So it works at all these scales. Maybe that's why it's a bit hard to answer anything about like what is the big ticket item. But so my use case there, so I'm going on too long, this is the last one I say, is like a few weeks ago I read an article in the Financial Times about Liberia. Probably have it someplace actually. And Liberia is outsourcing all of their education to a private company based in Boston, of all places. And that company has raised something like $100 million from people like the Gates Foundation, or maybe just Gates himself, I don't know, and Zuckerberg and whatever. So 100 million is a lot, because 10 million is a lot. And 10 times that. So, and they've started all these pilot projects in Kenya and stuff like that. But basically, they're a for-profit education place, and they will go offer very inexpensive for-profit education, and they've been compared to like the Uber of education. So this isn't probably the world's best plan. Well, I don't have ad set either, as you maybe noticed, Lisa. So I think it's okay if you maybe mute when you're not talking and then unmute when you talk. It's fine. Jump in anytime. But yeah. So the Liberia thing was just like, could we do better? Because their main focus is on rote learning and like rote presentation, people reading from a tablet and stuff like that. And I was thinking, well, a really big item would be to like intervene at that level of like a whole nation's like educational program. But I don't think we've got the ability to do that. But that's at least big.
Yeah.
That's a big answer to question.
Well, I think we've got some good stuff coming in, Amanda. That's awesome, that plexus idea. And there's also this hub, this thing in Boston in the fall. I put it on the group.
Right. But again, I'm still asking the question of the why. In some ways, and I think this has been sort of my challenge over the years of, I host some kind of group, and like you said, Charlotte, we get going, we get a lot of energy, and then and so how do we figure out what sort of our common goal is, so that we're actually helping each other out, and that energy maybe doesn't need to sustain throughout. And that's one of the things I've loved about the Peeragogy project, is how you can kind of pop in and pop out. As an organizer, I understand how frustrating that is. Organizing other things, when you set up all these things, you spend this time, it does take a lot of time and effort. And so I get that, and thank you for continuing to do that, for those of y'all who have. And I like the idea of, and forgive me, I've been out of the loop for a while, but I like the idea of an accelerator piece, or something where you bring a problem and we'll help workshop it Peeragogy style with you. Is that the idea of the accelerator?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we had talked about. Yeah, and in our previous quest to find what you're just talking about, a focus application. I mean, I'd like to figure out how to maximize the publishing group, so that we can run a volunteer organization and be effective. Not just be like pissed off at each other all the time, and enable people, independent writers and publishers, to get their books out there and be professional about it. It's very complex, because they have to engage with the organization. They have to realize that joining the organization is not the magic bullet for them, but is it's just a start. It's engaging and making sure that there's a two-way flow, and paying it forward, and getting volunteering at book shows will help them learn about how to publish, and be have a book that people will want to buy. Basically, they can make a living. Myself included.
Sorry, I couldn't find the Liberia magazine, unfortunately, which is around here somewhere. But I was listening to what you're saying, and I kind of feel like, in the way this accelerator thing, as you're describing it, with the use cases of people we already know, that's okay. But I feel like it would be probably possibly more compelling to have like a use case with people who somehow we don't know. They don't have to be all the way to Liberia. I think when I was talking with Charlie, he was saying, yeah, we've got all the same issues here in Chicago. But it's like, because I would put Planet Math as an example that also had all these long ongoing problems and trials and tribulations, and I'm frankly very busy with quite related stuff, and I don't have a whole lot of hope that like I can single-handedly solve the Planet Math problems. But I do have hope that people, if they sort of band together and put together some things that are of common interest, that yes, they can solve those problems. So I think that there's a challenge to kind of identify what those are, right?
Yeah, I mean, the reason
including with people who don't know yet.
Well, like I just posted there, I think starting with people we know might be good, because then we can get the model going.
I would say it can go both ways. I have a ton of challenge. I often like working together can come easier with new people sometimes rather than the people you already know. But then, so it's I don't know that doesn't feel like a absolute for me either way. And I don't know that it has to be an either or. I think it can be an and. I think that we could probably do one with folks we know and one with folks we don't know.
Yeah, so that I completely agree with you. And then it would kind of shape the model. And I thought that the experience at the Harvard group was quite revealing in that regard, because I didn't know any of them. Charlotte did, but
some of them. There's
Yeah.
4 or 5 that I didn't. But I mean, I think they all sort of picked up on this collaborative problem solving. That sort of resonated. That it's as a possibility for helping them solve their issue.
If I could just jump in here real quickly, because I kind of saw the evolution. I worked in an organization they considered their management structure very flat, and it was. So to a large extent, then we were utilizing very collaborative efforts, because there wasn't the management structure to hold everybody into line. You know what I mean? So management just dealt with huge issues. Everybody else was just collectively getting the work done. And this was a major multinational global company. What happened, though, is over time, and this is one of the things we can add to it, because over time they brought in new executives, and they're understanding this collaborative world when it's a large organization or there's a lot of stuff going on, is really, really hard coming in. It can feel really uncomfortable. And so the tendency, particularly for leadership, is when it starts to feel uncomfortable, is they want to control it. And how do they control it? They apply structure to it. And that structure is something that's more hierarchical. So I think one of the things that Peeragogy can do is they can say, hey, this is how it's going to be different. This is like, you're not going to understand step by step how things are going to work. You have to have some faith in the system that it will work. There's certain things you have to put into place, to make sure critical support mechanisms. But you're not going to understand step by step, because the funny thing is in the need for trying to ascertain control, a lot of times, or to feel like they're in control, they're kind of building that sense of control on things that aren't true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we're going to do step A, B, C, D, and E. Well, when you're really far out on a project, A may not follow B, C may not happen the way you thought, or shouldn't happen the way you're thinking. There needs to be a flexibility. So I think what Peeragogy can do is say, you need to have, there's going to be some uncomfortableness with it, and here's where it is, here's what you can do about it, and then and this is what you feel like you want to do, but it's going to not be in your best interest. Does that make sense? I think that
it does. Yeah, I get it. And I think not everybody will react well to unstructured incoming solutions, but
I love that point, Lisa, and I think this is what I spend most of my job and career playing in this line of people's comfort and uncomfort zones. And one of the things that I've found, and a reason why I will mention liberating structures again, one of their ideas is to have minimum specs. So they have this idea that there are a couple minimum, it's not structured, but it's differently structured. And so it's sort of all about teaching people how to, what are the 4 things that have to absolutely be in place in order for this collaborative environment to work. And so helping people to see those as, they're not necessarily controlling them, but they're setting, this is the structure that you're giving them. And so that's what comes to mind as you talk about that, is sort of what are the min specs for Peeragogy? And maybe we have them written up somewhere, but helping people to, it's almost like a bodily thing. Like we don't talk about these things as we're like, oh, work, I talk about it in my head. Like, no, the second you start talking on comfort, you're like, oh shit, that's in my body. What? you just got to me on this whole nother level, and I'm not sure okay, I'm going to go back to the way I do things, right? So there is that sort of thing that I don't know that we've spent much time thinking about or talking about or writing about.
And that's one of the things I think that's critically important, because those are the things that go wrong in corporations regardless of how they're organized. You're right. We don't talk about them. They're just implicit. They're like the air in the water, right? But that's where things go wrong. And so you need to bring those things to the surface or be more aware of them. And I think one of the things that pedagogy can do, it goes back to setting expectations. So you can't expect to control everything or feel like you're in control. And that sense of control that you have is kind of bull anyway. You really don't have the control. It's just think about it right now, but it's not accurate. You're not in control, and it's actually more damaging. So to have that attitude. So here's what you can.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I like that. One of the things I like to do is think about is sort of step people through thinking about, if we mash up a couple theories together and we actually look at, say, the environment, right? You see how things like work together, and they're all moving. They're not all aiming for this one thing that's going to stop and then we're there. Yay, we're done. It's all continuously moving. And so finding some kind of metaphor, I find works better, rather than saying you're not going to be in control. Helping, like switching the language just a little bit to help people, and I'm not coming up with exactly what it is right now, but to help people figure out, like, oh, these are the 4 things that I'm going to watch, like thread through, and I'm going to pull those patterns out, and I'm going to see them, and then it's going to mean this, or it might mean that, or I'm going to think it means that, but it's actually going to end up meaning that, and so allowing them to help follow and understand in that way, and have control, quote unquote.
Yeah,
I think
that's the idea of a metaphor is a really good idea. And that's probably something maybe we could get down, we should have out front, the metaphor of how we commonly think of things and how this works and why it works better. I agree with you completely. Yeah. And that may be one of the first things that we have almost on everything once we come to something we like, so that it gets people, it focuses people right away about what pedagogy is, why it's important, and what it does.
I mean, I was just going through this accelerator section. There's a lot of stuff that is in here that I actually haven't used and can see being really useful using. I've just been too lazy to apply it in my situation, But, if we could guide people in an accelerator using some of these loose sort of ideas about how to approach a peer learning or production project, and it would show us how effective they are too. I mean, I guess we pulled them out of our own experience anyway.
Could I
Joe, the links I mean are in the handbook text that I was just had on screen. So.
If you send me a link to the page, I can have a look. But
it's
tend to think about things.
I've tried a few of them.
Yes, that's a nice one, Amanda. That reminds me of the Gigi's thing about things being messy with lurkers as well. So you could also have, there's a whole part of reality that you don't even see off screen. So I was thinking about the different kinds of control. So in this Liberia article, which I've now found an online version of it, you guys can read it for yourself if you're interested. I'll try to copy it someplace. But at first they were going to bring in this for-profit company, and they were just going to do it. And then people caught on that this might not be a great idea, and then they said, okay, we're going to actually do a bit of an experiment and try different companies and different approaches in different schools, and then study what works well. So there's 2 very different kinds of control. One is that kind of do a study and see what works and try it and then pick the best one. If you do it correctly, that's like science, and good idea. I'm not sure they are doing it correctly. But anyway, the other one is this one, like I was saying, that people come into the classroom and everyone just followed the script, literally dictated from a central organization in Boston, and like, it just seemed very unappealing. And the reason it seems so unappealing is that this was like pedagogy without even any effort to involve the teachers in thinking about what they're doing. And I think that is maybe why I'm thinking about these outside applications. If we all kind of have outside applications, then we could apply peer learning to the things that we're trying to solve. So I think this is where, like, as Charlotte's saying, yeah, I'm still really interested in solving this problem in the publishing organization, and then she says, here it is, this week I'm going to work on this, and then reports back and said, yeah, that completely didn't work, or it did work. I think we could all weigh in on that. We wouldn't have to spend the whole week focusing on IPNI to have some insights and share some ideas there, because then we could go to like the next person looking at their other problem in their own, presumably their own peer learning group. So I think that could be powerful to do it like that.
I really do too.
And then we could bring in someone, bring someone in the Liberian government. We don't have to like take over the whole thing. We just would, if we found someone there who could hop on a hangout and talk with us, we could say, what are the problems you're solving? And then if we have some insights, we can share it. It would be kind of a low, low risk to just kind of share some opinions and try to get some feedback as well. So that's probably all I ever really had to say about this topic. So I'm done. Yeah, Charlotte found this article.
Well, I think, I think that's great. I mean, if we were to take some concrete steps going forward, I think, I would suggest gathering some, issues that we're all want to solve, like Amanda getting her art program going, me with the publishing organization, like how do we get the events coordinator to start working on stuff, and then it is something concrete and small and discrete and doable. That's just my...
Maybe the big idea, Amanda, is then the big idea is just this kind of taking lots of little things and having a place where we can, like, really air those issues and concerns, and, like, without having a nonprofit or any kind of power and control over anyone else, but just like, hearing them. This is one idea. Yeah. Anyway, but again, we could also pursue that. We could also pursue that in parallel to like something more organizationally, substantial. Like we could try to set up some liberating things, something like the liberating structures people what they have. But in my personal experience, we shouldn't set that up unless we've got a really good idea about why we're doing that, but why, and what actually goes into it and stuff like that. And I don't think we have that idea. I don't think we know yet.
Joe, do you see the screen share?
I do.
Okay. This is what I was trying to do. And it seems like all of them go into a 404.
Okay. Yeah, well, just send me one of them and I can probably figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I put it in the...
Action.html. Yeah. Okay. I'll see.
I have to say, I'd really think that the handbook has been good, just as a process to creating it. And when you bring a book to someone, like this guy at Harvard, this hot-shot professor, he's opening it and he's looking at the stuff. He said, "Oh, so you're on the editorial board?" It's like, it's like a whole awareness has started with him, and not that he's the solution to all our problems or issues or focus, but it does show you how valuable having a product can be when you're creating something like this.
So should it be, not should, I take the word should back. So would one of maybe our fun projects be a pedagogy coloring book or a pedagogy journal or something of that
Yes.
sense, so that
Yeah. You started
yeah,
that, didn't you?
probably. I've forgotten what I've started. I started a different coloring book, yeah, but it's
Oh, right, right.
still sitting on my shelf here.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back to
I still have my little things of that half class of yours that I took.
it. Awesome.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good. That was really good. I just the follow through, man. Oh man.
Yeah, there's something about it, right?
Mmm, it's bad.
Yeah.
And when I avoid things, I can really, I can be a
You're
virtuoso at
procrastinating.
them.
You're doing
Yeah,
something else in the meantime.
I know. Something's taken over.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
I know
Yes,
that about
I
myself.
think it could. I think that it's interesting because it could be a coloring book that you like draw in with your friends as well. It could be like a shared
Oh, a
coloring book.
collaborative coloring book.
Well, one of the funnest things in Howard's classes was getting on that mind map and, seeing people move their little stuff over and change the font size and, add some like little thread to the core idea.
Huh.
That was like the most fun. And for me, the pedagogy, the most
Huh.
fun has been editing the chapters with other people, just like, wow, there's all these little ants crawling around the screen doing stuff. And, we didn't mind if someone changed your stuff because it would be better, or you call them on it if you thought you wanted to keep what you had done. And, it was just, that was like being in the zone, sort of.
Oh, I really like this. The collaborative coloring book, but that's also a problem solving book slash journal.
Yes.
Could be
So
really
it's got a whole bunch of questions like what are you working on now, and you choose, I don't know, one way to use it could be to choose 4 people and you pass it to each other and it goes to the 4 of you and comes back.
We had the one exercise which my aunt used to always do is like I'm sure you guys have all seen it before, where you take an animal and like one person draws their head and then they make this little extension of the neck over the folded page. Next person draws the top and like arms or whatever, and then
Mm-hmm.
on and so forth. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 folds. But that's just one. I'm sure there are other less. We could take that as an example. There's other less standard ways to make a collaborative design. I think it could be really good. And in fact, I'm actually working on a project now. I'm just sort of starting it. This is something where some peer learning could probably, or peer production could help a lot, which is imagine that you're a designer of something, whether it's a car or an education system, I don't know, but you're still at the very beginning stages. At the very beginning stages, it's probably going to look somewhat similar, like you're going to be sketching things, making mind maps, talking to people about ideas, asking the kinds of questions that we're asking, like what is the big idea and how might we go about it. And what I'm thinking about is, could we build some kind of tool to support that activity? Probably by tool, I mean computer program, but it wouldn't have to be a computer program. It could just be a set of literally things that, like a set of exercises you're meant to draw. Like sort of what is that, Alexander technique for people drawing ideas at the very start of their creative process. So, but I don't know yet what that's going to be, because we're still thinking about it.
It's funny you say tool and I think markers and paper.
Yeah, marker is the main thing.
Well, there are, Joe, I know you like to find these obscure little programs that do wonderful things, but I think there's something to be said for using, a common language or a common tool that a lot of people are familiar with. Like, I think, and I'm not a Google fangirl. Well, I guess I am, but, it's just like, it's there and it works, it's, if you look at it and it's visually appealing and it draws you in. There's a lot of, I don't know. I mean, if you get
Yeah.
to the cut to the chase, you get the whiteboard up and you start doing stuff. It doesn't have to be Google or anything else. It just, if it works, it works. but
it's not necessarily the technology aspect of it, because I think that remains to be seen whether we would reuse something else or build something new or study how it works. But I'm thinking more of the social protocols, like things we've designed. You know, when we worked on that syllabus, for example, that was like, here's how you can make a syllabus, and Amanda drew the picture of a very memorable prize pig
well,
at the
and
end. Showed
that
up.
could be something we could apply to this ASL teacher who was at the Harvard thing.
Yeah.
Did you hear her? And she wanted to know. I mean, not that she's looking for a syllabus, but that was an educational application.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the pedagogy in action thing, which I guess you were just looking at, right? So, but I think that it remains a bit abstract, and I feel like going through that again and like making it more of an activity book that was like 20 pages long or 50 pages long or something would make it feel that much more concrete. And you wouldn't even have to use all the pages, right? It could be 70 pages long. You only go through 20 pages, and you're like, okay, I'm completely satisfied. But like Stanford has this design method, I think that they share out.
Was that the thing that Fabrizio was talking about?
Maybe.
Leap or leaf or something. Lead.
I'm gonna have to jump off in a minute or two.
Okay. Virtual crash course in design thinking.
Oh yeah, design thinking school.
Yeah, I guess it's been a whole hour of chat.
Can you capture that, Joe? Because I still can't do it. I don't know why.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, we can. I think we're getting somewhere, aren't we?
Always. We're always getting
I'd
somewhere.
love to. I mean, I don't know what I could facilitate, but I could see Amanda doing a really cool one, and we can pick one of these people who has an issue to solve, and maybe you could help me draw a solution for the publishing group issue. How to get somebody moving on their commitments, or they're excited about moving on their commitments. I don't know. That's just an idea.
Well, I remember now what I came to in the last time I was talking about this. Was something with better than a Post-it note. So Post-it notes are great. Everyone uses them. Maybe some people don't use them all the time, but everyone knows what they are. So what would we make that's like this thing is to a Post-it note as, I don't know, an iPad or something is to paper. Like, paper is still good, by the way, Amanda. I still like it, but
I like both. I like the computer too.
Yeah, they're both good too. So, but Post-it notes, yeah, we don't really have something that's like genuinely better than a Post-it note. But yeah, you could use it to make people do things, or make them, entice them to do things. All right, Charlotte. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love this this hypothesis commenting thing. I don't know. How do we track down those comments, if there are any, and how do we encourage people to comment on the? I think that's like crowdsourcing. All this stuff that we've been talking about. What do we do with the book?
Mm-hmm.
What if there are comments, we should be kind of monitoring them.
Well, there are.
Latest are collected here, and let's see what happens then. Dig.com. There was a problem loading this feed.
Well, I don't know.
I gotta run, but let's keep talking. And if you know anybody in the New York area interested in a creativity and movement type workshop, which is a weekend-long workshop in Walk Hill, New York, send them my way.
When is it?
It's June 9th to the 11th, so is it 2 weeks already or 3? Yikes.
Luck you're thinking.
And I'm really excited about it. It's at my friend's farmhouse, and so we're going to sort of use nature, and she has horses and cats and some chickens, and really, really think about the ecosystem that's there, and then also our own creativity and whatever individual problems we're bringing, and how we can step and use visual stuff to
And it's
figure
just
them
a
out.
weekend. What does it cost?
It's about 700 or 600, or student is 400, or there's a couple pay what you can spaces. So,
Okay.
and then also $50 a night to stay at the farmhouse, and we can only host a couple, and then you have to find your own stay.
It sounds like
Nearby.
a really, life-changing possibility.
I hope so. So this is the first one that we're doing, and then we're gonna hopefully keep doing it. And I actually got to do a tiny version of it in Ohio out at a ranch, Pebble Edge Ranch, where this woman has horses and does a lot of different work helping people to stand all kinds of stuff, through sort of nature and the presence of horses. So not necessarily riding them per se, just kind of being in their presence and understanding how they communicate as a herd and as an animal. So I'm really excited about it. So if you guys know anybody or that
Yeah, I've got I'm actually helping start a cultural district here in Arlington, so I'm in touch with a lot of sort of arty types.
Yeah.
Now I don't know where Joe went. So Lisa, do you think you could try and grab that chat?
Oh, I'm on my phone, so I'm not going to be much
Yeah,
help.
I don't know why my mouse just won't do it. It won't do it.
Yeah.
It's
All right, I got to
weird.
run, but I'll
Okay,
talk
see
to y'all
ya.
soon.
All right.
Oh, Lisa, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you.
It's okay.
I have very little of the chat, Charlotte, because I came in so late.
Okay.
Now,
Let me see if
when you go to highlight the chat,
I can't. It won't select it. It's been
will
this.
it select? Oh, okay. It won't start. It won't even
It
start if
won't
you try
even.
it on.
No, the only thing I can do is I can click on links and I can do a screen share, or I mean a screen grab. So I can. I know it's weird. It's been this way for months though. But
And I can catch, but I've got I really
Yeah,
don't have much.
let me see if I can.
Yeah, nothing's showing up for me. All right, I'm taking off for real.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm grabbing it or if I'm.
If I try to grab it starting with an icon, it messes me up. If I start in the words, it lets me do it.
Let's see, Joe. Oh, if Joe comes back on, he's not going to get it either. Crap.
Yeah.
I can't hang up.
Oh well. Bye, hun.
I'm trying. I can't figure out how to hang up right now. I'm having my own challenge.
Okay. Well, we got you for the duration.
Yeah. So like if I start on a word, it will let me highlight it. If I try to start on an icon or anything higher, it
Yeah,
won't let me
I
do
know. I tried that.
it.
This.
It won't let you do it.
I've tried different mice and everything. Let me see.
Do we want to
And
cut the broadcast off?
yeah, probably. Yeah. Maybe that'll help.